Caracas on NewsX World. Now we move on to South America. Supporters of Venezuela's ruling party have rallied in the capital, Caracas, demanding the release of deposed President Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores. Demonstrators gathered amid deepening political uncertainty, claiming the former president was kidnapped 1 month ago. Socialist Party supporters say the rally marks day 3 of protests calling for his return. They accuse unnamed forces of detaining Maduro and Flores and are urging their immediate release. The government has not responded to the claims as tensions remain high across the country. Let's listen into what some of the supporters have shared.
Ya que mañana, día 3, nuestro presidente cumple un mes que lo secuestraron. Y le estamos pidiendo que nos lo liberen. La liberación para nuestro presidente Nicolás Maduro y la primera combatiente Cilia Flores, para que vuelvan a nuestro país, ya que es nuestro presidente constitucional, porque el presidente que eligió al pueblo, y como lo eligió al pueblo, nosotros lo queremos de regreso.
Más allá de una protesta, nosotros estamos acá es para incentivar y hacer un llamado a la paz y que el mundo sepa que Venezuela no está en guerra, que está en paz. Y realmente lo que estamos haciendo nosotros es eso, pues enardecer día a día la paz para que esto pase pronto y que no solamente hoy es Venezuela, pero mañana puede ser otra.
Supporters of Venezuela's ruling party have rallied in the capital, Caracas, demanding the release of deposed President Nicolás Maduro. Now we welcome Ms. Shruti Dasgupta. She's an international affairs analyst, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ms. Dasgupta, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, what does the scale and persistence of these protests tell us about how Nicolás Maduro's, supporters have, or the people still support him amid current political uncertainty?
Well, there is political uncertainty. There is a currency crash. There is an employment crisis. There is penury. There is poverty. There is a huge section of society that has been deprived from its rights to progress and have a decent, livable life. But the question comes when it is not just Maduro, but whether it is Maduro in the hands of Trump and USA. Now, here is where the nationalistic feelings that became part of the entire socialism regime of Hugo Chavez comes into play, where you realize that they have been able to inculcate a strong feeling of self among Venezuelans, whether they like a leader or not, whether they feel oppressed or not, whether they are enjoying the same freedoms as the rest of the world or not, they are not open to suppression or interference of a foreign power. So the support is for Maduro is in two parts. One are loyalists who actively worked for Maduro and his cabal, and some of them probably are still part of the entire functioning of the new acting president of Venezuela, who is ready to sign off deals to ensure there is no further foreign interference in the nation. But before this particular lady took over, in the absence of Maduro, Maduro was also willing to sign those very deals. So this particular cabal that is demanding the return of Maduro from US does not really look at Maduro as a criminal. They look at him as a leader that has stood up to USA and is paying the price with his life and being. The second part of these protests that I can see or understand are those who are not probably as much in favor of Maduro, but are against US intervention in their local politics. They do not want to become another Afghanistan. They do not want to be another Somalia or Nigeria or any of these other African nations, or they do not want to be reduced to the resources that their nation can offer. They want to be valued as people. And this particular protest, some elements would probably be just protesting so that USA does not control and guide who is deemed as a criminal, who faces criminal charges, and They cannot feel the sense of superiority over Venezuela. So most of this protest is about identifying as Venezuelans, having national pride, having national unity, and asking for a return of a man, whether he's found criminal in their own justice system or not is a different question for them. They do not want USA to be the guiding force of what happens in Venezuela. So for me, there are these two particular segments that are standing out and asking for the return of Maduro.
And as at the end of the day, I mean, for right now, it's been almost a month since that, yes, actually exactly a month since Venezuelan leader was taken by US. So first I assumed it was for the regime change, but at the end it seems like right now it wasn't for regime change. Do you think that Venezuelan people wanted regime change at the end, which seemed like the narrative which was in most of media? And it also, how has this opposition leader Corina Machado, how is her popularity like right now?
So let's be honest that the 2024 elections, which were rejected by the world over and UN, they saw the least amount of voters come out. So when there is a sharp decline in voter turnout, it shows that the people are unhappy with the options presented to them. Then there was this entire conversation of Gonzalez not being found guilty by the Supreme Court of Venezuela, and then not being able to hold any office. And then there was Maria, who's the Nobel Prize giver as of now, and donator, should I call her. And she happily walked into the US camps as his political heir of Gonzalez. She has walked into the hands of USA. So that is why when Trump said that she doesn't have the people's pull, people are not very happy about that particular aspect. Now, it doesn't matter to USA who runs the nation as long as they run the policy and control the resources. If a regime change you expect is like an overnight thing, it doesn't work like that. There are no protests on streets happening in Venezuela. There was suppression, there was oppression, there were people demanding fairer chance to live a life, get away from this entire crude oil run. I believe there is an arms nexus, but not as prevalent as the other parts of South America. So they wanted away from the life of crime. They wanted progress, but under US sanctions, most of the nations had disconnected, so they did not have many options open. So when you brought a nation to its knees, obviously people are going to be protesting. The regime change would happen organically when there are leaders after leaders coming forth and asking for a change. Instead of leaders after leaders asking for the change, you're finding leaders walking to USA's camp and asking for help. That is not organic regime change. What happened is they got rid of Maduro a month ago, and the lady they placed there happily signed the deals to help agree to how USA is willing to let them sell their oil, where USA controls the money and all of that, those particular caveats coming into play. So what I see is this is regime change. They did change the regime. They changed out the dictator, but kept the system in play. So the people that are loyal to the socialist ideology and have been put in place are now loyal to the new acting president of Venezuela, and she is willing to use that entire state machinery to enable US goals. So there has been a regime change, just not the one that probably people of Venezuela were hoping for. Mind you, Maria would not have made a major change either. She would have probably opened up the markets, but that would have been like inviting vultures to dinner on a carcass of Venezuela. So her economic policies would not have led to direct change in the situation of a common Venezuelan. So either of these two options was never about the progress of Venezuela. It was just optics for USA, and I hope things will change out soon now that USA is ready to lift sanctions and the Venezuelan oil is ready to flow back into the markets. Let's hope that the currency finds its feet again, the nation finds its feet again, no matter who is running the nation, who's controlling the major part of the economy of the nation. Let's hope the common people find the breathing room to think for themselves and have leaders come forth and make the changes they need.
Ms. Dasgupta, lastly, so if US has already kind of gotten what they wanted so is Marina Corina Machado and Rodriguez rivals now? What is Marina Corina Machado's strategy to gain back support and trust of her people, and also, or does she have any other option or strategy to gain more support from US? But like you called her, Machado, the Nobel Peace Prize giver, right? It seems like she has already used the best bet.
You're right, she's played out her trump card. She doesn't have much to give more to Trump or that regime. The oil that USA wanted to control has already gone under their control, under Maduro's very own party and the system, that state machinery that he has given. So Maria Machado is, I think, the biggest loser of this entire regime change that is happening in Venezuela. And she would be grasping at straws, because if she goes back to the nation, I'm sure that the nation would be rejecting her. These very same protesters will look at her as a berserker, as a person who's been a traitor to their own nation and allowed USA to have the moral high ground to come into their nation and attack their president. So Maria Machado, unfortunately, despite being the winner of Nobel Peace Prize, is the biggest loser of the game of Venezuela.
100%, yes. Indeed, thank you very much, Ms. Dasgupta, for sharing that deep insight with us on NewsX.